go on the record. Senator Hawley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ganjei, I'll give you just some more time if you wanted to respond. Did you want to say something about President Biden's use of the commutation power?
Senator, I was merely illustrating instances where the president exercises broad, unreviewable pardon power and commutation power. And I understand that President Joe Biden commuted the sentences of many people on federal death row.
Violent offenders, I think, weren't they?
That is correct, my understanding.
Do you want to give him a grade on that?
Senator, I wouldn't offer a grade on that.
Do you want to grade any president on their use of the constitutional authority?
No, Senator, I would not.
Is that within your purview? Would it be within your purview should you be confirmed?
Senator, neither whether I should be confirmed or as a nominee, would it be proper for me to comment on that use?
Let me ask each of you, if I could. I want to talk a little bit first about nationwide injunctions. I think Senator Moody was starting to ask you just a moment ago. I think this is a vital issue. Tell me what you understand the scope of, if you were to be confirmed, tell me what you understand the scope of your equitable powers to be to grant injunctive relief. To whom could you grant it, under what circumstances? I think this is an issue of vital importance. It's been something that has been discussed on a bipartisan basis here. So let me start with you, Mr. Fowkes. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Folks, just like a bunch of folks. Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Mr. Fowkes, and then we'll go down the dais. Go ahead.
As I understand it, the issue of injunctions and temporary restraining orders are controlled by the provisions of Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 65, and pursuant to that rule and the cases that have been interpreted that rule, there's a series of factors that courts have typically considered in whether or not a temporary restraining order or an injunction is appropriate. And those begin with the likelihood of whether or not one of the parties, the moving party, will succeed at trial, the irreparable harm that may be possible if the order is not granted, the possibility of a public interest in that order, and several other factors.
All of that sounds correct. Can you, is it your understanding, can you bind parties, should you be confirmed, could you as a district court judge, could you bind parties who are not before you?
It is a very developing area of the law, and that my understanding is that power would be limited by the case law from the Supreme Court and also by the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure.
Well, tell me what you think the relevant case law from the court is. I assume you're talking about the CASA case, but
yes,
tell me about it.
In the CASA case, the court determined that that was a power that should be reserved to the Congress for a nationwide, authority over certain issues. And I think that it has modified our previous understanding of Federal Rule Civil Procedure 65. And I think, again, it's a very developing area of the law, and it would be very fact determinative and very fact specific. But I think that going forward, it is an important case for every district court judge to keep in mind.
Well, do you think that there are some instances in which, are you telling me you think you can, as a district court judge, there are some instances as a district court judge where you could bind parties who are not before you?
I think we're still understanding the court's ruling in CASA, and we're still kind of developing procedures that go along with that. And so it would be highly unusual and certainly challengeable in court.
Well, what's the basic rule that you understand the Supreme Court to have laid down on the CASA case? Let me ask it that way.
The basic rule is that a nationwide injunction that enjoins people who aren't before the court would be exceeding the court's power in that respect.
Okay, good. Mr. Ganjei, do you want to weigh in on this? How do you understand, what would your power be as a district court judge to bind parties not in front of you?
Senator, generally, I would not be able to bind parties not in front of the court, but the goal for that, any injunction would be to give complete relief to the parties before the court. Okay,
which I think is the rule. I think you just stated the rule of the CASA case, correct?
Senator, yes.
So, in other words, the district courts, this is, Senator Kennedy, here I am, I'm asking the questions and giving the answers. I'm kind of, yeah, thanks. It's really, I think, kind of defeating the point, though. It's like your bar exam, except for I'm giving the answers. I think the CASA case said that the equitable relief, the equitable powers of the district court are limited to providing full relief to a plaintiff who is in front of the court properly, but nothing exceeding that. Is that your understanding, Mr. Ganjei? Have I got that correct?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. So let's just talk about what that means in practice. I'll come to you for that, Mr. Peterson. What does that mean in practice in terms of the district court's equitable powers?
Well, Senator, it means that the court has authority over the parties that are before it in the case. The Supreme Court in Trump v. CASA pointing out that nationwide injunctions don't flow from the Judiciary Act. They're, the goal is to give complete relief to the parties before the court. And if I'm fortunate enough to be confirmed, I would strive to achieve that.
And, you know, is it fair to say that because the injunctive power is itself equitable, and our courts have said for centuries now that equity power is something that's got to be very, very closely monitored? I mean, because it's discretionary in many ways. It's difficult to pin down. It can be used, it can be broadened out and used for many, many purposes. You've got to be very careful in the use of equitable powers. It's safe to say that you would want to be very, very careful about any kind of a ruling that reaches out beyond plaintiffs in front of you. Even if it's necessary to make the plaintiffs in front of you whole, you want to be very careful about binding parties in any way who are not in front of the court.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, I've got some more questions for each of you as it relates to sentencing, the purposes of sentencing, the sentencing guidelines, which I think are very important. My time's expired, so I'll give those to you in the written record. Congratulations again on your nominations.
By the way, I have legislation in. I presume I got several co-sponsors on national injunctions, and I was with the chairman of the House